Hi, my name is Loren and I work here at Tiny Home Tours. I wanted to pop on quickly and let you know that our e-course focused on tiny living, the Tiny Living course, is still available in our pre-launch phase at a discounted price. So if you want to jump in there before we go up to full price and also access some incredible pre-launch bonuses, click down on the link below to check out our course sales page and enroll. If you're not ready yet but want to stay in the loop, you can also click on the link below to subscribe to our newsletter. Thanks.
I ended up buying this bus kind of on a whim. This last button is actually an electronic lock for my fridge drawer. You know, I live in 112 square feet. I have everything that I need. When I was learning to sew for the curtains, I learned to sew these box cushions. Hi, my name is Stefaan and this is the BB bus. Let me show you around and give you a tour. Welcome to the interior of the bus. We're gonna start here in the kitchen, but before I show you where things are and what's kind of going on here, I wanna talk a little bit about the design. When I was building this, one of my main goals was really to make this look and feel like it was a home rather than like, you know, some things in a vehicle. And so that comes down to a lot of the little decisions and aesthetically what things look like, from like light switches and outlets to what kind of lighting sources and the hardware that I used. So a lot of things in here are, you know, meant for homes, whether that's the drawer hardware or the sink faucet and that kind of stuff, because I really did want to step away from the visual of being in a car and try to really make it feel like a house. You don't see a lot of like monitoring system panels in here because you don't see that in a house either, you know, so that's either on my phone or with some subtle buttons like what you have here in the edge of the counter. This is my tiny kitchen. I like to cook a lot, and that's why I tried to make the kitchen as big as possible, which means I sacrificed space in the shower, but that got me an extra little bit of counter space here in the middle, which has been worth every inch. Here on the left end, we have main light switch. All my lights are on dimmers, so you see these are the two big strips in the top, and those put out an excessive amount of light. I really hardly ever use that because at nighttime they are absolutely blinding. So I use the under cabinet lights, which is on a switch over here by the bathroom. I use these vinyl wall tiles that kind of wrap around into the shower as well to, you know, kind of make its own visual element, but also have a really easy to clean surface. In the kitchen as my backsplash, we have a Furrion stove. It's the 17-inch range oven combo that's run on propane, which is mounted underneath the bus, accessible from outside. Butcher block countertop, one of these typical drop-in cutting boards in the sink, and like I said, a household faucet that also has this filtered water tap outlet, which I've found really useful because sometimes you're just sticking water in from the hose, and just to be able to filter that before you drink it has been really helpful. I went with this one in particular because it has all three of these outlets with only one hole through the counter. So that cuts down on one more thing that is in your counter and coming out from underneath, especially in a tiny space like this. It's been really nice to have. Obviously, we made a little handmade macrame fruit hammock, and I have some curtains on my windows. I made these to be completely removable, so they're snap-on magnet bars, so I can take them out, wash them if I need to, but then they also have little magnet clips, and those just roll down and tuck in there just like that. There's actually two layers, so if I wanted to, I could roll up this tan layer and have just kind of like a visual blocker, but it would still let light into the bus, even with the curtain down. Up top, we really just have like food storage, and then some toiletries here by the sink, which is where you mostly use your toiletries. And then down below is a lot more just general storage. So there's pots and pans in a big drawer, and then because of the wheel well, this bottom drawer is really shallow, so that's just kind of some extra storage. And then yeah, more general storage here. I even tried to make use of this tiny cubby space in front of the sink, because you got to use every square inch of space in a build like this. And then here at the far end, we have like a vertical pantry where I store my dry goods and that kind of stuff. These buttons in the counter, those took quite a bit to get them installed the way I wanted them to, but they've worked out really, really well. Here at this end is a solenoid on my propane tank, so I don't have constant pressure liquid propane into the bus in case there's a leak. I won't be breathing propane in here because unless this button is is turned on, propane is not allowed into the bus, which has been kind of a peace of mind kind of thing, safety for the interior of the bus, to not have to worry about that. Next button here is my water pump. So both of these, if I need hot water at the sink, hit both buttons, because I have a propane water heater, and that's in here behind these drawers under the counter. So propane, water, and then at this end we have a button that's actually unassigned as of yet, so I haven't found a function that I really wanted to use it for, but it's an option that I can kind of plug in and put that to use. And then this last button is actually an electronic lock for my fridge drawer, which is here behind me. I had an experience where I didn't put a lock on my drawer and I braked too hard and the whole fridge just slid completely into the middle of the bus. The drawer slides were busted and ball bearings were rolling around on the floor. So I didn't want to put one of the, classic bathroom stall kind of, visual locks on the outside here. So I put this powered lock that's on the drawer underneath the bed, so you don't see it at all. And then once you hit that, now you can, slide out the fridge and then lock it back up with a push of a button. In my final year of college, I would spend almost every class period on Facebook Marketplace, just like scrolling through bus listings, trying to find something that I think could work. Because at the time I was working on kind of a big scope outdoor adventure project, and I just wanted a weekend warrior rig, and I was going to do a quick slam dunk, like 2-month conversion, so we could fit a bunch of bikes and a bunch of bros, and we were just going to go all out, have a blast, and just like trash the rig. So I ended up buying this bus kind of on a whim. I told my mom I was going to go look at it, and I came back with it, and it was a little surprise to everybody. But after starting to work on it, I found so many problems with it, between leaks in the roof and rust on the floor and problems with the engine. And in good conscience, with the kind of work ethic that I have and wanting to do things right, I could not build a kind of garbage conversion after fixing all that stuff up. So then I set out on building actually a livable home, and I'm so thankful that I did, because I spent the entire COVID lockdown period in here kind of perfecting this little space, and now I've been living in it for 7 months and I wouldn't change a thing about it. On this side of the bus, opposite of the kitchen, is the dinette area. I have seen a lot of buses that just put in kind of a bench seat, seating area, couch style thing, and I've actually seen a lot of those buses do a remodel and build a dinette instead. Yeah, there's less seating in here, but this is just so much more functional, and I've really, really loved being able to sit here and work, but also share the space with somebody else. It's also got a little bit of modularity because the table is on a Lagoon leg mount, and I can take this off and drop it into this space below and use the cushions rearranged to make a bench seat if I have to. So we've done that a couple times when I'm camping with friends and it's raining, and we kind of got to fit 4 or 5 people in here. So you drop this down, spread it out, and you can make it work. When I was learning to sew for the curtains, I learned to sew these box cushions for my seats, because that let me get the exact size of cushions that I needed and in the color and the texture of the material that I wanted as well. It would have been a trick to find prefab units instead of making your own. I made use of all the space in here for storage as well. So under this seat is a whole pile of storage. Under that seat is a bunch of storage as well, which opens up, in the classic style, just like that. In the back of this seat, there's even a little bit of storage too. This is where I hide my laptop and iPad and some playing cards and stuff like that. There's actually a powered outlet in the closet, and I've run a USB-C cable out to this drawer so I can be charging these devices while they're sitting in the drawer and out of sight as well. You'll notice this shelf up here, it is open storage, which you may think is just really useless in a moving vehicle like this, but I did that intentionally because I know that if I put a rail up here or like bins where you can just collect things, it'll just turn into a colossal mess. So what this really does is that every time I need to drive the bus, it makes me tidy things up, put it away where it belongs. But when I'm parked for a couple days, I can, leave a cup up here or set a book up there, and, easy access while I'm there, but it keeps me refreshing the space and keeping it clean anytime that I gotta go somewhere. This is the bed area in the back. I went for a fixed bed design because I knew that this is the one thing that you guarantee will use every day, every night, for hours and hours and hours. And I wasn't going to sacrifice on this space. So I went for a fixed bed design. This is a standard full-size mattress up here, and it's incredibly comfortable. So I've really sacrificed nothing on my sleeping space. I've got plenty of room up here, even without the under closet area over here. If you needed to sleep an extra person in here, it definitely works and is pretty comfortable too. Up here is my closet where I keep all my clothes, and it's kind of just divided into little boxed areas. I've had to start rolling my clothes instead of folding them. That way, when I'm driving around and they kind of fall all over the place, you can just grab them and stick them back where they belong, instead of your stacks sliding and falling, and then you got to refold everything. So that's my closet up here. Fits all of my clothes, except for a few hanging items which live in here. I wouldn't trade this closet for anything either, because it's just incredibly handy to have a little spot to hang some jackets and coats, because if you fold a jacket, it'll take up the whole closet. So this closet is super handy. On the bottom of this closet, I have my laundry bag, so I can just, open the closet, toss my laundry in there, and then take the whole bag out when I gotta go do laundry somewhere. And I keep a yoga mat stuffed somewhere back in there as well. Right by the kitchen and behind the driver's seat, we have the shower. And this is one of the tiniest showers you'll probably see. It's a 24 by 24 inch shower pan. I could not find anything smaller. So at the entry to the shower, we have the Nautilus self-cleaning shower door. It's super space saving and it works brilliantly. And inside the shower, we have the consistent gray vinyl panels on the side. There's plenty of layers of waterproofing in here, so even if there's a little leakage, it's not going to be a big deal, but I'm not worried about these vinyl pieces cracking because they are built for wet environments as well. There's a little towel hanger in there, which is really nice that I don't have to have a towel out here in order for it to dry. Once I'm done with my shower, I can just stick it back in there and all my shower stuff lives in there. The fixtures are household units, they're not RV units. There's a sleek black handle, and then the shower head is really just a shower wand. Moving forward from the shower, here we just have kind of some basket storage. This stuff can stay here while I'm driving. There is a USB outlet up in the top corner here, so that lets me leave my Bluetooth speaker here and have it always plugged in and charged, and so it can always be ready to go in this position. I don't got to go turn it on or plug it in somewhere else and then put, so that's been really helpful to have up there. Here's another open storage area. I actually built this for a sound bar. I just don't have a sound bar yet. That's why you see an outlet here. Down here below these storage areas, there are some magnets mounted along the bottom edge of this bulkhead, and I do have a large curtain that I can unfold, and it just snaps up along the bottom edge of that to block off my front dash area. What I'm sitting on now is probably one of the hardest pieces of the build, in my opinion, and that's because building with rigid and non-forgiving materials like wood around such curvy and shape-changing areas like a dash in the front end of a car was really, really tricky. And it was like back and forth, cut, trim, test fit, trim. So this piece was a nightmare. It is removable with just a couple of screws because being a van front end, you really do need access to the doghouse in here in order for certain maintenance things to happen. So I can take this whole unit out if I need to. On this side of it, it just has some open shelves for my driving stuff. So I keep wallet, keys, water bottle, snacks in here while I'm driving. A couple other things on the bottom. And then on this side, there's a little cabinet door, and that's where I keep all of my shoes. I have one rear view camera on the back, and then I have one actually mounted on the bottom side of my passenger side rear view mirror because I don't have a window in this door. So between the windows over my shoulder and the camera on the mirror, I have a pretty good coverage of my blind spot, even though I don't have a window in the door. I live in 112 square feet and I have everything that I need. And living this experience is and will transform the way that I live every experience for the rest of my life. I knew before living in here that I was really fascinated by living tiny. I thought that was just a really cool thing to do. Now that I've experienced it, I believe that to another level. And the kind of personal freedom, both with your time and your money and with just your thought process that you gain by not having so much extra around you is actually super liberating. And that's been one of the added blessings of living in a tiny space like this, is that there's only so much that is here to distract me from what I'd rather spend my time doing. We'll go through a couple of the kind of technical features on the outside of the bus. Here, first up is a 30 amp charger. If I needed to plug in to charge my batteries, this goes through an inverter charger combo. So anytime you just plug this in, it'll automatically switch from drawing from your batteries to the grid, and it'll manage itself like that. However, I have never had to plug in, which has been fantastic so far. So that's just in case of emergencies. This port down here below is kind of my way to sidestep having to tap into my diesel tank to power my diesel heater. So I mounted the 3-liter diesel tank underneath the bus and then put this little fill valve in here. So when I fill up the bus with gas, I can just toss a gallon or so into there, and then I have fuel to run my diesel heater. Moving forward, I put this vent on myself. I did go for a ventless water heater, but then after installing it and testing it, I realized that the byproduct of burning propane, which is water vapor and CO2, was just getting dumped into the bus behind my counter. So I cut a hole in the side, put a little CPU fan that is powered by the propane button inside, and that kind of just sucks that air right out of the top of the water heater and spits it out here to try to manage some of the moisture accumulating behind the drawers that way. And then down here is my propane hatch. It's on a little lock, but underneath here is a horizontal mount propane tank. I don't have the vertical clearance for the standard kind of 5-gallon tanks. So this tank is actually just below 8 gallons. So far my propane accessories have been super efficient, and I've been really impressed with both the capacity of this tank as well as the efficiency of my propane accessories inside. I live in Napa Valley, or that's where I was building this bus, and halfway through building was during our fire season, and we were actually evacuated for 10 days at a time, twice in the span of about 2 months. So I threw all my tools in the bus and drove out and took it to Idaho, where I have a family member who's a welder by trade. I didn't know how to weld prior to this bus project, but I went up there and he taught me how to do some welding, and we did a whole bunch of metalwork projects on the outside of the bus, which was fantastic, one, to learn that trade, but also to be able to expand on what I could have here on the bus. So we threw on a tow hitch, and then I tossed on this little bike rack, which for me has been fantastic in the last couple of weeks, because I can have my road bike, I can have my mountain bike, and those can go with me everywhere. In Idaho, we welded together an aluminum frame for the roof deck, and then I welded this aluminum ladder and threw that on as well. And having a roof deck, if you have one, you know, but it pretty much takes your interior square footage and adds an extra 80 square feet, because you throw some blankets and pillows up there and you can sit up there with some friends and play cards, have lunch, just lounge, enjoy the view. It's a fantastic addition to have up at the top. The roof deck only takes up about the back half of the bus. In front of the roof deck is my max fan, and then in front of the max fan in the front half is my 500 watts of solar. Let's swing this bike rack down and take a look inside the garage. This is the garage and underbed area. You can see I have a lot of stuff. Some of this is like utilities, between extension cord, bike lock, hoses, bottle jack, tire pressure gauge and pump. Some of it is like photo equipment. I have a gimbal and some other lighting equipment in there as well. And then the rest is like sporting equipment. I got a tennis bag, a longboard, my cycling gear, shoes, helmet, gloves. I have a box with some climbing gear as well. And then up here on this little shelf is my backcountry gear. So there's a backpack, a tent, hammock, anything I need to go on a little backpacking trip or something like that. Underneath this shelf is where my water tank is. I have 40 gallons of fresh water. And then on this side is where my battery box is. I've got 300 amp hours of lithium and a 2000 watt inverter charger with a 40 amp solar charge controller. For the last 6 months, I have been working with a stationary job. I work in a family business and we make custom electronics for guitars. And it's been a really cool experience being part of a small business as a business student in college. Seeing the full picture and being involved in everything was really important to me, and that's been great living that experience in the last 6 months. That position isn't going to stay for very much longer, so I'm going to be moving on to the next thing pretty soon. I'm going to be taking this rig on a trip and really just focusing on some personal projects and some media and seeing how far that gets me. I may be looking into some bigger scope bus related projects coming next year. If you want to see more, if you want to keep up with what I'm doing on a regular basis, you can check me out on Instagram and TikTok at bbia_bus, and on YouTube I have a whole series on the process of building this, as well as ongoing videos of what it's like to live in here and what I'm up to, and that's also bbia bus. That's my space. Thank you very much for tagging along, and have a good one.